Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video. So this one is inspired by some of the flowers that I have picked from my garden. So in the UK we're in the middle of summer and gardening is something that I love to do alongside my arty shenanigans. And this year particularly I've had some really nice success with some flowers that I've not grown before, and so I decided to pick some of them and have a go at painting them. So this is what I'm doing in the little craft journal. I've added some buff paint to the journal page, just scraped it on with an old gift card, and then I'm using cheddar, and then this obviously is my favourite permanent red violet light, can't even say it now, that lovely pink from Amsterdam acrylic, and I'm using that to get some leaf shapes on petal shapes onto my page. So I'm using one of Dina Wakley's brushes here just for this, and I haven't drawn this out first. I'm just kind of going straight in, just being quite brave and mapping it out, because what's the worst that happens is that I make a mistake and I have to correct it, paint over it, and actually does it really matter? It doesn't really, does it? So just getting that basic shape in, and you can see it's not an identical copy of the flower that's there. I'm just getting an impression of it really to start off with. So once I've got that shape down, then I've grabbed some fuchsia, and I'm just going to stick a bit of that down and colour mix a bit of that just to make a slightly darker pink, because you can see on the flower on the left that there are many different shades on the flower. So just sort of starting off and starting to build up the colours and the patterns that are in the flower. So this is a bit of a different journal page for me really, because usually I'm using lots of Dina Wakley products and lots of stencils and collage paper and all sorts of things. And sometimes it's nice just to mix it up a bit and have a go at doing something else. So now I'm starting to add the petals in that are kind of behind, because there isn't just one layer of petals on the flower. So these are the ones that are right at the back, and I'm just adding those in. And you can see, like I said before, it isn't an exact copy of what's there. It's an impression of it really. I'm not particularly worried about making it exactly as it is. So just really had lots of fun painting these. I don't know, there is something wonderful about having something in front of you and just observing it and looking at the colours and the patterns and the texture of it, and just relaxing and enjoying doing it. So it's lots of fun. I can highly recommend having a go at this. So now I'm just going in, I've added a little bit of white, and I'm just doing a bit of colour mixing, adding some highlights to some of those petals. It really is just about building the layers up here. So now I'm doing a bit more colour mixing, and going to mix really dark colour, because you'll notice around the centre of the flower it really is quite black. I do end up going back in afterwards with a Stabilo pencil and really darkening up this area. But the light is shining in a little bit at the wrong place to see, but that's sort of made a start at adding that darker middle to the flower. So then I'm just adding some kind of highlights into that centre part, because you can see there's like a little ring next to the dark bit where it is a little bit lighter. So that first flower that I painted was a dahlia, and this one is a zinnia, and so I'm just going to have a go at painting the petals on this one. So it's a very different style of flower. I haven't done anything like this before really, certainly not with acrylic paint, and definitely not in my journal. I have painted flowers with watercolour paints, and I'm not an expert, so like I say, just having a bit of fun and getting a representation of, oh sorry, that was my cup of tea, of what it looks like into my journal, just to kind of capture that the happiness that they bring to me, really. So for these ones, I've used cheddar and blushing and a bit of yellow, kind of mixed them together and made a really pretty colour. And then also apricot as well. And just doing a bit of colour mixing to try and find the right shade. And it's only when you start really observing something closely you realise how many different shades and colours there are in things. So one thing that I realised while I was doing this is that, as is true of journal pages, you need that contrast in there. So you need the very light and the very dark as well. So here I'm just going in, adding some darker places on the flower because I've added some highlights already. And that's when things really start to come to life, when you add the contrast with the light and the dark, the shadows and the highlights. And yeah, like, I'm not being technical about this, obviously, but it was so much fun to do. So here I'm just using a Posca pen and just adding in some more highlights, kind of being approximate about where they go. And while the pen was wet, I was then smudging it. So here I'm going in with a Stabilo all pencil, and this was the best way to get that dark centre in the flower. You can see it kind of is starting to come to life now. So I'm using that to add some marks onto the petals as well, because there are some places where you can see marks on those petals. And the Stabilo pencil is so nice. It's such a soft lead. And obviously you can water activate it if you want to, but you don't have to. And you can smudge it with your finger too, so you can soften it even more. It's a lovely tool to play with. And here it worked quite well for the centre of my flower. And then I also went on and used it on the little zinnia that I'd painted as well, just to try and give that a bit more of a 3D effect by adding some darker areas in there too. And I guess all the time when you're doing something like this, you're learning, aren't you, all the time, like, well, that didn't work so well. I wonder if this would work better, and just sort of learning about what things are effective to achieve the look that you want. So then I'm painting these little verbena flowers. So I'm exaggerating the flowers that are on this because they're much, much smaller in real life. These are the little tiny purple flowers that you can see at the very top left-hand corner of the screen. Super pretty flowers. It's a perennial that comes back every year and grows on really, really tall stems and has got a little cluster of purple flowers at the end, and keeps popping up all over my garden. But it's so pretty, and particularly so when you observe it up close. So again, for this, I am just kind of going for an idea of these flowers. I'm not being particularly technical about how they actually are. So I'm getting the base colour down first, and then I'm going to start adding in my shadows and highlights again. So now I'm just going in with blackberry and just adding some dark dots into the centre of those flowers. and also just adding some dots around as well. I think I also go in and add some splattering too onto my page. So here I go with the splattering, and I really like the effect that this achieves. It gives a kind of quite a dainty effect. It is pretty, and it also softens as well. It softens the images and the page around it too, because obviously some of the splatters go on the page around. So I've used a similar colour around each flower to that which I've used to paint the flower itself. So once they were dry, I then went in and did some mark making using a white Posca pen, just sort of bringing the images to the edge of the page and helping that flow a bit more. And then it was time to write my words, weaving through my flowers that I've painted on my journal page. And I'm using quite a thin Posca pen for this. And this was a page that I really, really enjoyed creating. Yeah, and I guess it's nice because I've captured those flowers in my art journal forever now. And so don't feel sometimes that there isn't inspiration around you. It is right there. It's right wherever you are around you, probably right under your nose. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me create this slightly unusual journal page for me. Thanks very much for watching, and I do hope to see you again soon.